Good evening, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here this evening, and I just want to say it is so wonderful to be together and to be recognizing young talent in our industry. Amy, Katerina, Tori, all the members of the RISE organization, committee leaders, advisory board, thank you for pulling off what has been a phenomenal day and such an important day for our industry. So let's again recognize everybody involved in RISE. I really do want to say it's exciting to be here and talk about the future of our industry. And the reality is the future of our industry is here in this room, right here and now. It's so exciting to see so many young people excited about insurance, excited about what we do as an industry, and to be able to see the impact that you're already having within your careers. I'm curious as a starting point, how many people are familiar with the one-word concept? Does anybody know about one word? So the idea is pretty simple. One word is all about, rather than picking a New Year's resolution, picking a singular word to really represent what you want your focus to be throughout the course of the year. And for me, my one word in 2022 was now. Because now is such an important word, it has a sense of urgency about it. It has a sense of clarity, focusing on what matters now. It also makes sure that it brings clarity to my decision making and where I spend my time and energy, and now is also about being present in the moment, here and now. And there's nowhere else I'd rather be right now than in this room with all of you. Now is also an important time for the insurance industry. It's interesting, I have the privilege of working for Gallagher, and Pat Gallagher, who's one of the iconic leaders within our industry, often talks about insurance being the oxygen of business. And when you think about that metaphor, think about the fact that no building gets made without insurance, no product gets manufactured, no one shows up to work without there being workers' compensation, no customer goes to a store without liability insurance, and that is because insurance truly is the oxygen of business. But that oxygen is certainly at risk within our industry. Our industry is experiencing tremendous growth, but we don't have nearly enough talent. And I think that's pretty well understood by many of us in the room. Overall, the number of insurance jobs will grow from 2.3 million in 2010 to over 3 million in 2030. So there's tremendous growth. If you look at the unemployment rate for insurance against the overall economy, consistently over the last decade, unemployment has been 2 to 3 points lower for insurance than the overall economy, because we need great talent. But we also face a challenge. It's not an industry that people naturally gravitate towards. It's interesting, in 2016, the Hartford ran a study to get a sense of what people were interested in as they left college. And back in 2016, less than 5% of millennials expressed an interest in insurance. I thought that was fascinating, and I can't imagine that a lot's changed in the last 6 years. So I'm curious to get a perspective from folks in this room, just a little bit of audience participation. By show of hands, how many of you anticipated joining the insurance industry when you graduated high school? We got one over there in the corner. Thank you for that. Separate question. How many of you anticipate retiring from the insurance industry? Pretty fascinating. And that's a short amount of change throughout the course of many people's careers inside of this room, but you found your home. And I can share with you my own journey has been similar. I didn't start in the insurance industry. I certainly didn't learn about it from my family. My dad worked in a jail. My mom was an ER nurse, which, when you think about it, kind of makes me perfect for claims because I hit both sides of it. But I certainly didn't talk about insurance with my parents around the dinner table. I was fortunate that in my consulting career, I had the opportunity to work in the insurance industry. And as it was said earlier, I had a chance to meet so many fascinating people and meet leaders that I really respected and admired. I also had the benefit of being able to follow those leaders into this great business almost a decade ago. And it's been an absolute phenomenal journey. I absolutely anticipate retiring, not only from this industry, but from Gallagher Bassett, the company I have the privilege of being a part of. It's a tremendous organization with phenomenal leaders, great team members, and it's home. It feels like family. And that's so important to finding your career and finding your home for your career. So the real question is, if all of us, or many of us, didn't anticipate joining insurance, but somehow found our way here, how is it that we attract more people into this great industry? And really that's the essence of my comments this evening. You're not going to hear me talk about COVID. you're not going to hear me talk about the Great Resignation, artificial intelligence, or the hard insurance market. There are many people far more qualified than me to be able to talk about those topics. But what I will talk about is my own experiences. And it's an interesting time, the timing of this particular set of comments. Tomorrow is my birthday. And it's my 45th birthday specifically. Thank you. And I share that not because I want a lot of happy birthdays later, but more because of where I'm at in my career. I'm not so far removed from many of our award winners this evening that I can't remember what it was like earlier in my career. I'm also at a point, fortunately, where I have the opportunity to influence many careers inside of insurance right now. And I certainly have plenty of ambition and drive left ahead of me. And so it's from that perspective that I'm really excited to be able to talk to you tonight and to share some perspectives. Really, I want to talk about 3 areas. And you don't have to take notes. What I really want everyone to do is just be able to participate and listen a little bit. But there's really 3 areas that I'd love to share with this group tonight. The first are things that I wish I knew earlier in my career. And if I can share perspectives that help any of you avoid a pothole or 2 in your career, this will have been well worth it. The second area I'd love to talk about are things that you should know that nobody will tell you. These are the things that I think in leading the organization. These are the things that many of the senior leaders here in the room probably think, but don't necessarily get communicated explicitly. And hopefully they're pieces of advice that'll help you to continue to propel your career. And then the last area are things that the insurance industry desperately needs from those of you in this room. What we need from all of you as leaders to propel the industry forward, to attract new talent into our industry, and to have this room triple in size over the next decade. Because that's really what it's about. It's about attracting people into this industry who are excited about what they're doing, charged up about the impact they're making, and helping us move forward. So with that, I'd love to start with things that I wish I knew earlier in my career. First thing I wish I knew, and some of you are experiencing it right now, is anytime somebody's going to get up to give a keynote speech, make sure you refill your drink first, because you have no idea how long I'm going to be up here. So hopefully many of you had a chance to do that earlier. But in all sincerity, one of the things I wish I did know earlier in my career is that every interaction you have throughout the course of your career makes an impression. It has an impact on everybody you interact with. And I'll share with you a couple of quick examples. The first was actually, there was a great post regarding my opportunity to give this keynote speech tonight. And as that post was put up on LinkedIn, somebody actually made a comment on it. It was a woman that I worked with nearly 25 years ago. I haven't talked to her in at least 15 to 20 years. And she said, "You know I'm stalking your success, Mike, because I knew you back when, and I know what an awesome person you are. I remember you being humble, a good listener, and quietly making your mark." Now, clearly I've changed because I'm bragging about it to all of you right now. But that really meant more to me than almost anything else that could happen in my career, right? I clearly had an impact, and to have somebody like her celebrate my success was phenomenal. I'll compare that to an alternative situation. About 10 years ago, I joined Gallagher Bassett. I was leading our client services team, and I was determined to make sure we were a feedback-driven organization. I wanted to challenge our team to rise to the occasion, to grow. And so early on, we were going through the performance review process, and I had my senior leaders give all of our vice presidents an evaluation, a letter grade, and things they needed to work on. 7 years after that, one of the vice presidents on the client service team shared with me that when he got his letter grade, he posted it up on the refrigerator at home. And his kids asked him, "Dad, what's that?" And he said, "Even Dad gets grades." And it left an impression on him. 3 years later, just recently, he left our organization. That was a missed opportunity. That was an interaction that I certainly wish I could take back. And I share both of those examples with you because, especially as you continue to rise throughout your career, every interaction you have, even though for you it may be a passing conversation in a hallway, a drink at a conference, an interaction during a meeting, to you it might just be one of 100 interactions during the day, but it is so impactful to the people that you interact with each and every day. So please, please remember that your impact and your interactions really have a lasting effect on those that you work with. The second thing I'd love to share with you in terms of things I wish I knew earlier was lean into the things you don't like and that you're not good at. Another quick story. So before Gallagher Bassett, I had the opportunity to work at Bain & Company. Bain is a large consultancy. It's described as an intense up-or-out culture. I joined the organization from a smaller company, and to give you a sense of what life is like inside of a large consultancy, the projects are intense, they're 90 days, and it's all about how do you quickly add value and then get out, because obviously those large companies, those large consultancies charge a lot in terms of fees. So early on, it was critically important that I made sure I had my team mobilized. I pulled together work plans to direct their activity, and I hated it. I absolutely hated putting together work plans, because as soon as I put one together, it was outdated. It changed, because we learned something new. It was a waste of time and energy. About 3 months in, a partner took me to breakfast, and he said, "Mike, it's not working out. Your review is not good, and if you don't get this figured out real quick, you're not going to be here much longer." Obviously, that was a wake-up call. I had 3 kids under 3. I had just bought a new home. I had moved into this firm. I had to figure it out. So I asked everybody that I thought was good at work planning in this particular example to teach me, how can I get better at it? And what I came to appreciate is the reason it was so important is because it allowed you to anticipate things that might conflict with one another, anticipate the questions that might come up during the course of a project. And although many of you may not have to worry about work planning, there are many things that you might say, I'm not good at that, I don't understand that, I don't know anything about that. It might be human resources, IT, marketing, finance. If you aspire to be a general manager, you have to know a little bit about a lot. And you have to put yourself into positions to stretch yourself and to learn about the things that maybe don't come naturally or comfortable to you. 2 caveats to that piece of advice. Don't spend all of your time on the things that you aren't naturally good at or that you don't like, because you will find it incredibly draining. The other thing is, there are exceptions. If you want to be a deep specialist, then you don't have to learn a little about a lot of different things. You can be a deep expert, but make that decision consciously. Don't let others make it for you, and don't make it by choosing to go down certain paths because you're a little bit worried that you may not know something about a particular topic or area. The third thing that I wish I knew earlier in my career is that who you work with matters so much more than the company you're at, the title you have, the role you have. It's the people that you work with that challenge you to get better, that support you, not only at work, but in your personal life. My own story very much follows that path. I had the opportunity to go to graduate school, and in leaving graduate school, I was the first on-campus hire for a small boutique consultancy. It was about 25 people. I left that consultancy and followed one of the partners to Bain, and while I was at Bain, one of the partners from that small boutique consultancy had become the global CEO of Gallagher Bassett, Scott Hudson. One choice to join that small firm of 25 people led to multiple career moves and ultimately to my home in insurance. And I share that with you because it's the people that you work with, the way they inspire you, the way they challenge you, the fact that they know you, that gives you the opportunities in your career. So always think about the people that you surround yourself with, not the title, not the money, not the company necessarily, but the people that you get the opportunity to work with, because those are the individuals that really help shape your career for decades to come. The next area that I mentioned is things that you should know, but nobody will necessarily tell you. One of the things I certainly wish I knew earlier and that nobody will tell you is that sharing a problem is pretty worthless. Sharing a solution is priceless. I'm sure many of you look at inside of your company today and see opportunities for things to be done better, maybe things that you wonder, why isn't it that senior management isn't looking at this? And the reality is because senior management's likely looking at 1,000 different opportunities or challenges that they need to tackle. You don't have necessarily the full perspective of everything that's on their plate. I can tell you it affects me personally as a leader. If someone comes to me and says, someone needs to fix this, someone needs to do something differently with this, it's exhausting. It's another to-do for me. And it affects the way I interact with people. There are people in my organization, on my team, who when they send an email, I take a deep breath. I decide, do I have the energy to read it right now? Maybe I'll come back to it in a couple hours. Maybe after a beer later that night. And the point is, it affects the way I think about those individuals and the way that I engage with them, the way that I engage with what they might be raising to me. Conversely, People that come to me and say, I think we've got an opportunity. There's something that can be better, and I'd love to be part of making a difference. That's such a godsend, right? So ask yourself, are you the type of person that brings opportunities and a desire to be part of the solution, or do you bring a problem? Because if you bring a problem, it will hold you back in your career. It's the people that want to make a difference that continue to rise throughout their career. Second thing nobody will tell you is exceeding expectations is not about doing what's been asked or expected of you. Another quick story. I had started working at that small boutique consulting firm. One of the first projects we had was actually doing procurement for Gallagher. And this was at a time during Gallagher's existence where it had gone through a very large growth streak, had acquired a number of brokerages, and was really debating what was going to be the focus of the corporate center. And so it was decided there's certain things that just make sense to be done inside of a corporate center. Every individual office doesn't need to be buying its own office supplies, its own IT equipment, things like that. And so it was decided, let's start a procurement effort. And so the first area that we and I focused on was office supplies. We went through the process, we selected a vendor, and as we were getting ready to implement it, Pat said to Scott Hudson at the time, as well as to me, make sure this is gold-plated. Make sure it rolls out perfectly. Because if this goes badly, the next dozen things we want to do will fail. Meeting expectations would have been selecting that vendor, rolling it out, and saying, we could save the company money. Exceeding expectations was developing the training materials, holding the training with administrative assistants, being the help desk. It's ownership of the situation. It's doing more than what's just asked, but what's expected, what's needed. A great example of that in this room is actually one of the RISE Award winners and the leader of the Innovation Committee, Megan Nelson, a member of the GB team. I'll ask Megan a question. She won't come back with, here's your answer. She'll come back with, not only here's your answer, here's 3 other ways you might think about it. Here's other analysis I've run to potentially evaluate the problem. And you might also want to think about these other 2 or 3 things. It's exceeding expectations, not just doing what I've asked specifically for her to do. And the reason I share that with you is because a lot of people fall into the trap of thinking that doing what's asked is enough. It's not. And part of that is because, especially in senior leadership, you're too busy to really always give the context. And so as you're an emerging leader, the ability to anticipate, to think of those second and third order questions that somebody might have, those are the things that differentiate you as a rising insurance star. Right? Those are the things that Megan does, Joe Longini, Bert, other members of our organization who have been RISE Award winners in the past. That's the thing that they do inside of our organization, and it stands out to me. The third area that I would share with you in terms of things that nobody will necessarily tell you, but you should know. Many of you have gotten to this point by being an incredible individual contributor or maybe leading small teams. You're now going to transition to a point in your career where the ability to drive through others, to lead others, to get them to follow you, makes all the difference in the world. That's what you'll be evaluated on. It's not your individual expertise. It's not your individual capabilities. It's how you can then share that and amplify it across a much, much larger team. There's a great example also in this room that I'd love to share. Vilma Palma-Blackman, one of our claims leaders. So Vilma, I didn't prep you for this, but when was the last time you handled a claim from intake to closure? 20 years ago, Vilma shared. There is nobody better at leading a claims team, at ensuring consistent quality, about ensuring loyalty, about ensuring service to our claimants than Vilma inside of our organization. I don't worry about whether or not Vilma knows the latest on what's happening with intake or the latest in terms of regulations in different states. I'm confident she and the team are figuring that out, but it's her ability to lead those people and to ensure that we're delivering through the hundreds of people that report up to her that makes for a great executive leader. So again, remember, it's your ability to deliver through others that will ultimately allow you to continue to progress throughout your career. The final area that I wanted to share with you is what our industry needs from you. The fact is that this room is the key to the future of the insurance industry. And we do need far more than just bright, driven, and ambitious people. Everybody in this room is bright, driven, and ambitious. I have no question about that. But what this industry really needs is leaders, people that really attract and make this an industry that people want to be a part of. And when I think about leadership, there are a few key traits that I'd love to share with you because I think it's so important to what that future of our industry looks like. The first is we need leaders who have clear values. One of the things that attracted me to Gallagher, and certainly one of the things that keeps me at Gallagher, is that it is fundamentally a company built on values. At Gallagher, we talk about the Gallagher way. It's 25 tenets that guide how we interact with one another. Almost all of them are internally focused. Those were written back in 1984. They've been unchanged since then. But here's the beauty of it. They're not just a marketing slogan. They're not just something that's kind of codified in the archives of Gallagher. They're lived and breathed every day. It starts at the top with Pat Gallagher and the way that he interacts with everybody that he comes across. It comes across in my day-to-day life and working with Scott Hudson. And I can tell you, there have been times in my 10 years with GB where we've had to make really difficult decisions that weren't necessarily in the best interest of the business, but they were the right thing to do. And our industry needs that so badly. When you hear the industry talking about things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, environmental, social governance, talking about ethics, these are all critical things. But for good companies, they're a natural part of the way that the company operates because they're driven by leaders with real values. Everybody may have slightly different values, slightly different upbringing, but ask yourself, what is it you stand for? What is it you accept? What is it you reject? What is it you'd be willing to give up your job over? Because those are the kinds of tests that you will have throughout your career, and it's what our industry desperately needs, is real leadership. Not people that can drive a P&L, but people that can do the right thing and encourage others to do the right thing inside of our industry. We also need people who bring their whole self to work. I'll share a few things with you over the next 20 to 30 seconds. I've been very blessed to be married for the last 21 years to an amazing woman. I have 6 kids. I am a major music geek. My first concert was ZZ Top when I was in first grade with my dad. My favorite song is Back in Black by AC/DC, and I took my kids to see Kiss before COVID. In my spare time, I'm a big fan of pinball and retro arcade games, and I also love sports, in particular Penn State football. So what do you know about me? Well, first, everybody now knows that I am perpetually a 12-year-old stuck in the 80s. Hopefully I have some good company there. You also probably know that I'm a family man and that I have a variety of interests. But I'm also guessing that after just sharing that 20 to 30 seconds, maybe a few of you might have something in common with me. Maybe I'm a little bit more approachable, a little bit more human. And that's my point. Don't just focus on your work persona. Bring who you are, what you're interested in, your hobbies, your family, your passions into work. It makes you far more interesting. It makes you a better leader. It makes you somebody that your team members respect, admire, and will follow. Too often people focus on how do they manufacture the persona they want people to know about them at work. I can tell you, I have loved working in an organization where my boss every week puts out an email that he shares what's going on in his life outside of the business. I love recording a video every month and telling the team what I'm up to with my kids, and yes, we'll talk about the business too, but I love when I get emails back from team members. I love that Christy Sands, member of our internal communications team, texts me every morning and says, "Hey Mike, did you get today's hurdle?" Right? Those are the types of things that you don't get if you don't share a little bit of who you are and allow people to connect to that in a very meaningful and real way. So please, please bring your whole self to work, not just that which you want people to know. And the last area I would share with you is we need people who genuinely care about others inside of our industry. It's really hard to get people to care about you and your agenda if you don't start by caring about them. And again, I'll share experiences from my own career. I can't have a meeting with Scott Hudson without him first starting off by asking, "How are you? How was your weekend? How was the family?" And I can't get away with, "Fine, things are great." "No, Mike, how are things going?" He wants to know. He's met my family. He's met my kids. He cares. That's part of who our culture is. That's part of what we do. Before tonight's event, I get texts from our chief marketing officer, "Hey, Mike, good luck tonight." It's because he cares, right? He knows that this means a lot to me. It means a lot to our organization and to the RISE organization. And it's these types of caring demonstrations that really make a difference. People need to know that you care about them beyond what they can do for you, but because of who they are and what they bring to the table inside of your organization. The other thing I would share is when you think about caring, it also comes down to demonstrating appreciation. And I would call to action everybody who's receiving an award tonight. You are receiving an award because somebody has made an impact, a sacrifice, or has invested in you and your career. It might be your parents, it might be your colleagues, it might be a boss at some point. But after tonight, take a moment, reach out to them, share with them, hey, I won, and say thank you. Because it'll mean so much to them if you reach out and share the impact that they've had on your career and that you're taking a moment to reflect on the impact that they've had on you. So I'd love to close my comments tonight coming back to that theme of now. The good news is my comments are coming to a close soon, so if you didn't refill your drink, hopefully you'll get a chance to do that very soon. But when we talk about the urgency of now, there's a few thoughts I'd love to leave you with. Right now, in this room, you are surrounded by some of the brightest, most driven, interesting people you will meet in your career. Take advantage of it. Really get to know one another and invest in staying connected to the people in this room beyond today. These are the people that will help propel your career forward. I have no doubt about that. Right now, you are at an inflection point in your career, and you have unlimited potential and opportunity. If you've taken any advice from any of the sessions today, this was a good use of your time. Because now is the time where you need to think about the next 15, 20, 25 years of your career. Right now, there are people in your life who care about you and think you're working too hard or too much. And they're right. Give yourself a break and know that your career will work out. This is something I wish I had taken a bit more time on. And I'm guessing if you talk to anybody in this room with a gray hair, they will tell you they wish they had taken that advice as well. Right now, there's somebody who wants to spend time with you. And I can tell you, with kids headed off to college soon, I certainly wish I had maybe spent a little bit more time at home than career focused, because it all still would have worked out. And finally, right now, you are an exceptional talent, and you are bringing tremendous value to your organization. I hope that you are surrounded by people that care about you. I've had that fortune. I hope that you have people that are rooting for you, that are investing in you. Because I will leave you with one last thought. If that's not the case, Gallagher Bassett is hiring right now. And so with that, thank you again. I am so excited for the award ceremony. And again, congratulations to all of the award winners. And again, thank you to Rise for putting on a tremendous, tremendous day. Thanks, everybody.